My name is Joe Peroni. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. And for today, I want to analyze the Johnny Depp Amanda Heard tape. It came out probably about a year ago, but I still think it's important for people to hear. I think we can learn a lot from it, especially if you are disengaged emotionally. We can really take a look at it. It's hard to learn when you're actually in the fight yourself. So we're going to take a look at that, but I want to do a few disclaimers right up front. And number one, there's many references to physical abuse. So if you've gone through that type of thing, this might be triggering for you. So you might want to rethink if you want to listen to this or not. Number two, there's a lot of profanity. So if that type of thing offends you, then you might want to not listen to this either. And number three, which I find is very important too, I am a therapist, but I'm also a man. And so I'm going to try to analyze this objectively. But being that I'm just a person and I've gone through stuff like this myself, I need to take a look at that. And you need to take a look at that as well, if you want to judge, how I'm looking at this. Because as a man, I do believe there's a double standard when it comes to intimate partner violence. Many years ago, let's say, I had gone to a therapist myself. And one of the things I was asking the therapist, I said, what do I do? This person's physically harming me or putting me in that danger. And the first thing he said is, what are you doing to piss her off? And of course, it was back on me again. I'm like, I don't understand this. And I was going there to improve a relationship. And this person, who is a man, he ends up calling her and communicating with her on an individual basis, which you should never do as a couples therapist. And I know this because, I am a couples therapist. And he used to start off the conversations or his correspondence with, "Hi, darling." So again, I understand that in therapy too, as well as society, tends to be somewhat feminized. And when you do therapy, there's about 80% of the therapists now are women. Obviously, they're going to have a more feminized approach. Not all of them, of course. And the other 20% of men, a lot of them have bought into this thing about being white knights and taking care of the women at the expense of men. They buy into this societal thing that it's always the man's fault, no matter what. And part of the reason why they do this is because most of the clients are women, so they're trying to make money. So let me put that in as a disclaimer as well, because you need to know that, okay? I'm going to try my best to be objective. So let's take a look at this. I don't think I'll get through it all because it's kind of long. It's about 46 minutes, but I'm going to start it off right in the beginning. It hits like about 55 seconds in. We can start to analyze this. Start to look for things like communication. Is there criticism? Is there condemning? Is there stonewalling? Is there defensiveness? Is there all or nothing thinking? So let's take a look or a listen.
It's not alone. We gotta change how we do things. And I want to trust you, and I feel like all the trust is gone. All the fucking trust is gone in the relationship because you keep splitting.
I'm not gonna be in a physical fucking altercation with you.
Let me stop it right there, right off the bat, because there's so much stuff in this. Okay, her quote is, the trust in the relationship is gone because you keep splitting. Splitting is a psychological term, but she doesn't use it that way. She uses the word split as he leaves the vicinity. And the reason for this is because he's trying to avoid a physical altercation. So if you're a therapist here, you're looking at this going, okay, she's trying to say that there's no trust in the relationship because she's basically saying that you need to be there while I abuse you. And again, anybody who's been in abusive situations understands this as being, a gaslighting situation where she's trying to actually put it on him that there's no trust because he leaves. Her request here is, you need to stay while I'm abusing you. And he's leaving because of the physical altercations. Now, again, as a therapist or anybody, it would be a good thing to do to leave the premises, leave the area, take some space. He makes a mistake here, though, because if you do leave the area, and it will trigger somebody's fear of rejection or fear of abandonment. So what you should do is say, I don't want to hear anything that I have to try to forget, or I don't want to say anything that I have to take back. So because of that, I'm going to leave for an hour, 15 minutes, whatever it might be, so the other person knows that there's an end to that and they will come back. Let's continue.
Don't.
You fucking hit me last night. You fucking...
Or all the other times you split. Come on, you cannot act like that's about that. It's
Well,
not.
when on a plane, I can't split.
No, and you hit back. So don't act like you don't fucking
I
participate.
pushed you.
I'm not going to get into the details of that fight. You and I both know that you split when there is no physical violence involved. And that you do it like at the very beginning of fights these days. And if you split and you go into a different room and you don't actually leave that house, it does nothing but perpetuate the fight. Really, when you split on me, how do you feel when I leave you?
When I split,
would
when I
like
go
to
into the other room, you said.
And
wouldn't do
getting
it
me a
with
room, getting another room in a hotel is just the same thing.
When did I get another room at a hotel?
Let me stop it there again. Once again, she says that he participates in the violence because he defended himself. We have to think about that. Again, yes, it's her issue here, but I also think it's a societal issue where she was basically told that because she's a woman, she can physically abuse a man, and he's the one at fault if he decides to defend himself. She also says it's not about the physical altercation because you leave before there's a physical altercation. So let's take a look at that. Yes, if you are in an abusive situation and you know your partner really well, you know what it leads to. So why wait? And it's okay to leave because of emotional abuse or emotional violence as well. To say, listen, here's my boundary. You're not going to speak to me like that. We're going to speak to each other like respectful people. If you can't do that, I will disengage for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, whatever it takes, in order to come back to an actual respectful discussion that can be productive. So let's continue.
Text Steven or Nathan in Toronto to get you another room. It's chronic. It happens all the time. And if you do it to go into another room, you do it and you get dressed.
You were fucking screaming at me.
I'm not going to validate my actions last night. I feel very bad.
No, I'm talking in Toronto.
I did not start screaming until you had fucking said all this shit. You poke an animal enough, it is eventually, it doesn't matter how friendly it is,
It's
how
not
cool.
true.
So I have not done this to you. I have not said these things to you. I have not started to fight by saying I'm going to get another room. And I'm not going to sit here and fight about...
Listen, denying and defending and not validating your partner's experience, it's not going to go anywhere as well. She has admitted to the physical violence with him, but doesn't take any responsibility for it. She's justifying her position and the need or the want or the ability not to stop being the aggressor.
Fucking Toronto anymore. Guess what? I let it go. I'm not fucking talking about Toronto.
Send me the tapes.
I can whisper it. I can write it. Guess what? I'm not saying another fucking word about Toronto. I'm so sick and tired of fucking fighting about old fights. This is not about a fight. This is broad. This is a broad thing. And if I'm telling you every single time you get dressed and you fucking split the top of a fight, you never fucking try and work it out, you never fight for me, you never come to me, you never self-calm, you never self-soothe, you're never the one to throw the olive branch. I'm sick.
Let's take a look at what she's saying here. You never self-calm. You never self-abuse. And she's saying that while she's losing it and she's becoming emotionally dysregulated. He's not saying much. And also what's happening here is that Amber Heard is not hearing what she wants to hear from him. And so she's trying to get more out of him. So unfortunately what happens, and a lot of people who have had difficult childhoods, right? They tend to recreate that situation, recreate that situation. So for example, they'll pick somebody who's abusive. In this situation, it appears that Johnny Depp is not that person. He's not an abusive person, so she didn't pick that. But what you do is in that situation, because it makes you feel comfortable, not good, mind you, but it's familiar, you try to provoke it. And here we see over and over and over again, she doesn't let it go. She doesn't understand that it's a wrong thing to do to chase people down, to abuse them. She's really insisting that he stay there and take the abuse, and that will make him more trustworthy. So again, she's trying to provoke that in him. Let's take a look a little bit more.
I'm tired of it. It needs to fucking change. And you can go, I can't meet those demands, I can't do it, or you can fucking promise me so I have a modicum of safety, I have a modicum of respect, a little tiny shit sliver of fucking like, you are in this whether it is good or bad. Whether it is good or bad, down and up, lows and highs, tough and easy.
You got the tapes, let me hear them. Send me the fucking recordings.
Again, to reiterate, here's where she's also projecting throughout this, because what she's doing is she's projecting on him that he's somehow abusive by leaving, when that's an absolutely appropriate thing to do. And so what she's also projecting when she says you can't self-soothe or self-calm, because obviously, listen, I don't know if he's on Xanax or whatever he's on here. I have heard other tapes of him throughout the years, and he is very calm, and he does pick his words very judiciously. So he is calm. If he was any more self-soothing here, he probably would be asleep. Whereas she keeps saying you need to be self-calming, and yet she is showing no signs of being able to do that.
Just text them to me.
I don't know how else to say I will to you. I haven't, because we have not been well. We have not been good. When I fucking move out, if I move out, then you'll have them, and you can fuck.
When I move out, if I move out, again, if you're trying to make things work out with a partner, threatening to end the relationship when things aren't going exactly the way you want it, when you want it, or your partner's not saying the things that you want to hear, so you threaten the relationship, absolutely 100% verbally abusive. Let's move on.
Fucking relish them. You won't fucking like it, what you hear. Won't make you happy. But you hear what I'm telling you. That was after Toronto.
Yeah, that's when we came back here.
I know where we were.
Toronto, Boston, here.
I know where we were. We've been on the road basically since Australia, and I have been at your side. And I have not been filming the movie.
When we were on our honeymoon, I hope you were at my side.
I'm not talking about just a honeymoon, now am I? I'm talking about many months. And was it all the honeymoon? No. I have been at your side throughout it all. You said, why did you come to Rio? And I answered you. I would love for it to be better. I have no fucking consistency, no safety, no security. The relationship is something you don't fight for, you don't stand up for, you always run from when it's tough. I'm telling you, I need more. We didn't say vows. You didn't make them exactly in that way, you know, but now is the fucking time. I need to know if you're going to be there. I want promises. I told you that at the beginning of this conversation. I need promises.
She's associating love and she's associating security with his ability to stand toe-to-toe with her and fight, which is interesting. I don't know too much about her background. I do know that her mother was an alcoholic. Her father was an alcoholic. And also, I've read, and I don't know why I'm reading this, if I know it, then she certainly knows it, that her father never wanted a daughter, she wanted a son. I mean, he wanted a son. So when we look at this, she has massive self-esteem issues, insecurity issues, and she's looking for people to fight for her. And you see this a lot with people that have borderline traits. Let's say, I can't say personality disorder because I don't know her. And I can't diagnose someone I don't know. But she's showing a lot of narcissistic traits. She's showing, obviously, right? Because everything's about her. She doesn't say anything like, what was it like, you know, to have your wife punch you in the face? It must, you know, she doesn't have any empathy whatsoever. She never sees anything from his point of view. So she's showing borderline traits. She's showing narcissistic traits. let's move on.
Promises you're gonna fucking be there. And he promises that this is important to you, not when it's easy, when it's hard too. This is something you'll fight for. That this is something that's sacred, that neither of us throw out.
I'm going to move this up a little bit. Let's see how good my my technological skills are here. Okay, so let me start it here.
One of us is, and I'm the one to do it every time. It means I'm the bigger person every time. It means I have to be the strong one. It means every time I have to fight for our relationship. And you get to be you get to be lazy. You get to be cowardly. I don't know what it is.
What are you here for? What do you need me for?
Once again, I am fighting for...
If you're fighting for a relationship, it's not a good thing to tell your partner that they're lazy and that they're cowardly.
The relationship.
With a guy that you don't fucking trust or like? Why?
I did not say I didn't like you. I love you. You're my favorite person in the world.
I don't see how.
I remember when I said at the beginning, I'm sorry you feel like you can't imagine it, but I said this to you at the beginning of this conversation. I said, you're my favorite person in the whole world. If you weren't the most magnetic, shiny, beautiful, interesting, dynamic person I had ever met in my life, it would be so easy to walk away from this bratty thing that you do.
I actually believe her here. I believe she does love him. It's unfortunate, though, of what people do in order to get love. Unfortunately, she's had a rough childhood, and she doesn't really know how to love anybody. I don't doubt she feels what she feels. But within the same sentence, she, of course, has to throw in the word bratty.
Trustworthy.
Did you hear what I just said? I said I can't trust. That's not meaning you're untrustworthy. It means that we've created a situation, and I'm telling you what you do to create it too. We've created a situation in which trust can't grow. It's like it's trampled every single time, and we need a marriage. That's why I sat down. Do you not remember me sitting down at the very beginning of this conversation and saying just that to you? Saying, I know you got married for security and for safety. So did I. We did not get married because it was something that we're doing, because it was something we could walk away. We wanted the foundation. No?
Yes, I wanted to make you my wife.
Yes.
Let me stop there. Again, projection. She's trying to tell him what she believes, right? And what she believes here is that she got married for, I believe she said, safety and protection. Let's go over this for a second. Anybody out there who is thinking about getting married or is married or anything like that, getting married for safety and security is probably the worst reason I could think of to be married. If you feel safe and secure with another human being, then consider getting married, for sure. But by getting the state involved in your relationship or having vows, that doesn't make you safe or secure. And let me throw this in again as a man. There's nothing that makes a man feel less loved than when someone tells them, I married you for safety and security. Basically because you're worth more money than me. And now that I'm with you, if we decide to get divorced, I get half your money. So she's basically telling him that I married you as a pension plan. And he comes back and said, I love you. I want you to be my wife. So let's see how she reacts to that.
Yes, but you could just have me as your girlfriend if you didn't want the foundation. And you told me, and maybe you go back on it now. Fine, okay, cool. Lie about that. I don't know. You told me you wanted a foundation. You told me you wanted the security. You wanted the safety. You liked the foundation. At the beginning, you said, I really like having that. It feels safe. So don't argue with me when I say it now.
I'm not arguing with you.
Oh, yeah, but you had to pick it apart.
By saying because I loved you and you're my wife, I wanted you to be my wife. That's picking it apart.
No.
Then how did I pick it apart?
I don't want to do this. I don't want to fight about a fight. I want to fight about the semantics.
How come when I come up with a point, you can't answer it? You don't want, or suddenly you don't want to answer it?
What?
I'm going to answer it. The reason why she doesn't answer is because she doesn't really have an answer. This is called stonewalling. Now, I love John Gottman. He's probably like the top marriage and family therapist in the world, and everybody goes to his seminars, including me. But he has this wrong because he doesn't really talk about personality disorders and how it affects people in their communication. He talks about stonewalling as usually a man who doesn't want to talk and just lets the woman keep speaking. And usually a man will do this because he just feels like the conversation's going nowhere. So it's just the best thing to do at the time and not, not rile the whole situation up. But that's not really all what stonewalling is. Stonewalling is a refusal to allow real communication to take place. And if you see this, there's multiple times where Johnny Depp is trying to get to something here, to get to it. Like, why when I make a point, you don't discuss it? And she just keeps going and talks about, you need to be there when I'm beating you up. That's stonewalling. That's a big part of narcissism, where they can't admit to wrongdoing. They just can't do it. It's not that they don't know. I mean, there's no way in her right mind that she would say what I'm doing is right. But she can't admit to it. So she'll stonewall to the end of the earth. Let's keep going.
What am I not answering? Because I don't want to fight about this new thing? No, I don't want to. I said you wanted the safety and security, and you stopped me, you interrupted me, and then you said, what? Because I wanted to have you as my...
I didn't interrupt you. You asked me, right? You said, right?
I meant you interjected. I meant you said. You said. How about that? See, now, is this better? I answered you. I addressed what you're saying. Now, can we please not fight about that?
And I said, because I love you.
I said loved.
I want to stop it right there for a second. She blames him for picking it apart. And he correctly says, I married you, married because they got married previously in the past. I married you because I loved you. I think a lot of people would love to hear that, actually. I married you because I loved you. Not I married you because now I feel like I'm got security. And he says this, and feel his response if you can, because he pauses for a second. You could hear him breathe. Like, how can I get through to this person? Because she's picking apart that he said loved with a D on the end in the past tense, as opposed to saying, I love you now. And this is what she's hanging on.
We're talking about a fucking event that's past tense. If I used loved, my apologies, it doesn't mean I don't love you now.
He immediately says, I apologize. Right? Think about that. As a codependent person that he is, he's trying to soothe her again and say, look, he doesn't want to argue it. I said love twice. I said I wanted to marry you to make you my wife twice. She doesn't hear any of that. She's just still going after the fact that he said the word loved instead of love.
Try. Let's both try. If there's anger, if there's something fucking really fucking poking us in the ass, let's try. Try not to fucking fight. Try to address it without jumping down each other's throats, because all that's going to do is build a mountain of fucking resentment, some species of fucking hatred within the love, and so totally fucking mistrust, because you say you don't trust me, I get it, okay, I'm flake, I'm with this, I'm with that.
Let's stop it right there. He's offering a solution for both of them and not blaming her. And he does say, about her trust issues. But also what happens is when a person attacks you verbally and physically, that also undermines trust. So let me slide this up a little bit. So I don't want to take all day for everybody here, because this can be really long. There's a lot of stuff here. So let me move it up to this very interesting part. And let me get it right.
Fight when there's a problem. You don't come to me. You don't make peace with me. You never extend an olive branch. You're never the bigger guy. You're never the one that's like, okay, I'm going to put my own feelings.
Never, 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 never. She says this numerous times. I can't even count how many times she says this. Speaking in absolutes never works well in communication.
aside for a second and say, this is bigger than us, let's stop fighting. You never are the one to come and knock on my door. You take me for granted.
It's not true. It's not true. I'm not the one who fucking throws fucking pots and
That's different.
Else at me.
That's different. That's one does not negate the other. That's irrelevant. It's a complete non sequitur. Just because I've thrown pots and pans does not mean that you come and knock on the door. Just because there are vases does not mean that you come and knock on the door.
Really, I should just let you throw.
I'm not saying that. You're saying that. You're putting words in my mouth and then making non sequiturs.
I'm giving you a situation.
No, you're trying to justify how you don't or do come to the door based on whether I throw pots and pans. It's irrelevant.
No, I'm justifying how you seem to think that there's this cowardice in me that runs away and I don't fight for you.
And you're justifying that by saying I throw pots and pans? Okay, cool. Let's talk about everything you do, Rob.
I'm not the one who fucking did that. I didn't.
So that makes sense.
Again, circular fighting here on her part. She's never admitting to throwing pots and pans, and I think at some point she says that she throws vases at him too. And it does have to be mentioned that at some point she does throw a couple of vodka bottles at him and cuts his finger off. So that happened too. So again, he has very good reasons for being afraid of her physical violence.
That's clear, yeah.
The only time I ever threw anything at you was when you fucking threw the cans at me in Australia.
Why are you trying to justify who throws things based on whether or not you come knocking on the door?
Because that is a fucking irrational and violent fucking maneuver.
He's justifying what he did because she threw pots and pans. Yes, that's why he's justifying that. That's not a normal response from a person who's trying to solve an issue. Let me move this up a little bit because there's a lot here that it goes back and forth about her not wanting to take any responsibility. Again, his biggest mistake here is not telling her, I'm leaving you for this amount of time and here's why. And I'll be back in 10 minutes or whatever like that. That's the biggest mistake I could see him making here. Let's start.
Time. You do this every single fucking
time. We'll talk to Travis.
I'm not fucking talking to nobody.
No,
fuck that. You go fucking jerk him off. I don't care. I really could care less. It's you every single time. You latch onto some sort of thing. When I already told you, I don't know what you're fucking talking about. You don't even know what you're talking about. You still haven't even told me what it is. But run with it.
I have told you what it is.
No, you haven't.
I said to Travis, I said to you, hey, tell Travis what just happened.
You told me to do it. You told me to. You said, go do that.
I said, no, tell him what just happened.
And I lied.
And that you punched me in the fucking thing. And you figured in the face. And you said, no, fucking, I didn't. What the fuck are you talking about? And I watched you lie. And then I
didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You've been a lot of fights, been around a long time. I know. Yeah.
No, when you fucking have a closed fist.
You get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are your...
Okay, she says that you weren't hurt when I hit you. All right. So just so we know, because society's kind of weird, when you have somebody that you love, it's not about if they knocked you out or if they knocked you down. It's about that they had the thought process to try to hit you. That's number one. It's like if somebody lies about you and says something bad, that doesn't affect you that much. It's the fact that they want to hurt you, and that's where the problem is. And you could see this here. This is, again, narcissistic to the core. I mean, the unbelievable justification and the lying. I mean, she literally is trying to have a irrational discussion with him, saying, I didn't punch you. I hit you. That's better. I didn't have a closed fist. I don't even know what she's trying to talk about here. But there's not one part of her that's willing to admit to this. And this guy is obviously getting physically abused, and she is not even remotely admitting to that. Actually, she's justifying it, saying, well, you didn't get hurt. You didn't get knocked down. It's not that big of a deal.
What am I supposed to do? Do this?
How are your
I'm not
toes?
sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are.
Let me stop it again. It's hard to hear. He says, well, how are your toes? The how are your toes part is a reference towards he's trying to get away from her. She doesn't like when he leaves the house or the hotel room. So he's trying to leave into another room, and he was trying to shut the door, and she put her foot in the door to stop him so she can abuse him more, probably verbally, whatever. And he even says, how are your toes? And again, that was a reference because he was trying to shut the door, to avoid her. So let me move this up a little bit, because this is even, it just keeps going like this, which is pretty unbelievable. Let me move to here. Okay, and play.
Then we had a fight in San Francisco.
Notice they fight so much that their fights have names, because they're all in different cities. They mention Toronto, they mention here, they mention wherever, San Francisco. They're fighting everywhere. And heck, if you could find out in this what the actual fight is about, other than her fear of rejection and abandonment.
But I thought everything else was great. You're saying you've been pondering this since Australia.
No, the splitting.
Me splitting.
Like the lack of, I even said this in Australia. I said I feel like it was so good for so long. We talked about things. Remember we were allowed to have fights then. Remember we allowed ourselves to say, hey, you did this, or you took. Remember we would even have a little argument and it was okay. It was an argument. I don't know what the fuck has changed.
Okay, so when you're codependent, again, codependent people tend to be neurotically naive. You're always looking for the best part, and you're not really looking at reality. Johnny Depp here says our vacation was fine, other than the fact of we got into a physical altercation, meaning it was a good vacation, other than the fact when you started punching me. And there's another part he says in here, we fought a lot. When it seems to be usually just her being the aggressor. There were a lot of fights, and I didn't think that they were going to end, but I thought that they would diminish when we got married. So again, codependent, being neurotically naive. Let me move this up again a little bit more. Okay.
It becomes all kinds of shit. It becomes like right at the get-go, yeah.
See, that's the problem. If you see any criticism as a verbal assault, of course we have this problem. We're going to have it next time you do. God forbid I have a problem with something you do. We're going to be in this situation.
Say
Are
it
you ready
nice.
for it?
Say it nice, man.
What if I'm hurt? Am I not allowed to be hurt and be human? That's the thing. You're not allowing me to be human then. You take my humanity
You're
from
talking
me.
about-
You're telling me I'm not allowed to feel
You're
things
talking-
and I'm not allowed to react because to protect you.
Last night,
Okay. She says that she's not allowed to be human because she can't express herself to him. He says, just be nice. Just be nice. And then she has to go on. Again, even looking at this objectively, this is a really difficult move here to be able to say, what does he need to do to make this better? Other than leave, like what he has been doing. Because even in this situation, he said, yeah, no, you can say what you need to say. You can feel what you need to feel. Just be nice. Don't criticize me. There was another quote, it's not in this video, but he says, listen, can you just love me and not hurt me? Which I find really interesting, because it goes again through this, that he's trying, but I don't see her giving much here. So let me move it up to this other part so I don't make the video too long again. Just give me a second. Okay, let's try from here.
major thing to me, and it is a major.
If things get physical, we have to separate.
No,
We have to be apart from one another. Whether it's for fucking an hour or 10 hours or fucking a day. We must.
There it is for the first time where he says we have to be apart, and he mentions a time frame. So he's fixed one of his issues here. If he wants to stay in the relationship. His other way to fix this is just to leave completely.
There can be no physical violence.
I can't promise you that I'll be perfect. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. God,
I can't promise you that I won't get physical again. Change the sexes. Imagine a man saying to a woman, listen, I ain't gonna promise you. If I get angry, I just go to the finish line. I just start throwing and beating people up. That's what I do. What do you think would happen there? Let's continue.
sometimes I get so mad I lose it. I can fucking promise you I'm gonna do everything to change. You didn't even come home last night. I feel like I have nothing to hold on to. The semblance of marriage or commitment or stability. I mean, if I can just get up and I can fucking promise you I'm gonna do everything to change. You didn't even come home last night. I feel like I have nothing to hold on to. The semblance of marriage or commitment or stability. I mean, if I can just get up and walk away and spend the night somewhere else.
Again, she's talking about having stability in the relationship, but ironically, people have borderline traits like this. They all their romantic relationships are shaky because they're causing such damage in it. So at the thought of wanting and really needing safety and security, there's nothing about her words or her actions that are creating that. She does make a little mention here that she'll try to do better. But then again, on the other hand, she says, I can't promise you that I'm not going to hit you. So let's finish this up here. I got one more piece. This is 46 minutes long, so I'm trying to cut some of it out. But let's go to here, where we hear, I think it's Johnny Depp talking about what he thinks is
decision was made. If it's the end, it's the end. If it's the fucking, we can keep going, we'll keep going. But yeah, honest, I promise you. I promise you. I hope you can trust me.
I don't want any loopholes, it's okay to leave, it's acceptable to do this, or it's acceptable to say this about like splitting or breaking up or leaving, right? That's our, we should fall asleep together every night. Ideally, never mad. I'd love to say,
Of course.
you can promise that, but I don't know if it's possible. I'd love to strive for it.
Yeah, you weren't ready for that last night, for sure.
No, I fucked up last night. I'm really sorry. And it's affecting not just me, it's affecting our marriage. It's affecting how I trust, how I resent you, how I like you without the fight being happening.
No, I know, but when
I'm not trying to rub your nose in it. I feel sometimes like you omit something, you acknowledge it, it'll be beautiful, and then you'll go back on it, kind of, and you're broke.
So let me end it there. As you can see, there's parts of her, she's a human being. She wants love and connection. She's absolutely terrified of abandonment. So every time he leaves, or every time she says, or she's hypervigilant about what he says or what's going on, she takes that as the relationship is going to end, and she just verbally abuses or gets to physically abusing him. Very narcissistic. But let's take a look at the other side, because you could say that there are no victims in a sense. They're volunteers, right? So let's take a look at that. That's a saying that's more they're trying to say that about codependence, because a codependent doesn't have to be overly nice and neurotically naive. They could just leave, right? But here we have, after all of this arguing, he basically gives in. And he says, okay, I will be there for as long as it takes in order for this to be resolved. I won't run away. And that sounds really good, because you're talking about a person who is very successful, and he thinks if he works on it enough that he's going to be able to solve this issue. But the problem with that is it's not the only issue of him staying there all the time, because she's getting angry way before he leaves. Those are other issues. So how did it end up? Well, unfortunately, like I have alluded to before, the physical abuse got worse. He was burned by a cigarette. He got a vodka bottle thrown at him. He broke his finger, and then the tip of his finger was cut off. There's even a part where he says, how do you think I feel? I'm a musician, and I just lost the tip of my finger. His mother died, and 3 days later, she's the one who filed for divorce, and she was making fun of him because he cried that his mother had died. So he was obviously distraught and sad about his parent dying. Anybody would be. And she mocked him for that, because she says through this whole thing, you're a coward. And she makes these things that are very emasculating, towards him. So I'm going to leave it at that. Hopefully this wasn't too long. I think we're up to about 42 minutes or so. And hopefully this had some value for you. If you would like to subscribe to my channel, that would be nice. And just as good or even better, tell a friend. Thank you very much. Bye now.